Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. It is officially, and I will say the team that is hosting first, Iowa Penn State week. Mark, a little disappointed, more than a little disappointed. I won't see you in person, but I know you got actual responsibilities in life, unlike myself. So I understand that. Hopefully we'll see GT. It sounds like that's going to happen. Good to see you guys in person. Grant, how was the Missouri Valley Open? We'll start there.
Yeah, got a couple of great matches in. It was like one of the last opportunities for a lot of kids to get quality matches in before the end of the year. Next week is our conference tournament, which is basically like the Big Tens, Big 12s, ACCs for our division. So it was a really good opportunity for kids to like kind of solidify themselves as a member of the people that we will take to conference, or just to get matches in. So as always, Mike Mockholtz and company down there at Missouri Valley always put on a good show. They run really good wrestling tournaments down there. So tip of the cap to those guys, and being able to host something like that towards the end of the season.
They have been running really good tournaments for a long time and bringing a lot of revenue to Marshall, Missouri. So those hotels and restaurants should be very grateful. I want to give a shout out. I'll be on the air. We're recording this, on Wednesday. So I don't know if this will come out Thursday or Friday, but Thursday night, tomorrow night, I'll be on the air for the Ottawa NAIA duel against St. Mary's. And then also want to thank ESPN and University of Virginia last Friday night, which was just chaos, and we'll get into it. I was on the mic for the Virginia Tech duel. That was a lot of fun to do. There were some interesting results there. I got about 27 texts about what was going on during Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, Iowa. So we're going to get into all of that. But it was a really fun weekend for me. I guess let's start out this week where we started out last week, and that was in the world of USA Wrestling. The results on the men's side: Nick Lee wins the first match. Yanni gets injured. Looks like it was concussion. Nick Lee wins the first match. The second match is a winner by injury, default, or forfeit, whichever way is the most technical way to say it. So Nick Lee will now be the guy that tries to qualify the weight for us at the Pan Ams. At 53, Dom Parrish, Jakara did not make weight, or didn't show up, whatever you want to say. So Dom's in. 62, as Mark correctly predicted, Kayla Miracle beat Kilty by 3. Really, really good series. If you have some time, you should go back and watch that, especially the third match. Miracle really got her level change going. Shout out. I spoke to Lee Pritz, and he talked about some of the adjustments, and it's always interesting to hear what happens mid-match and mid-series. And then Amita Lohr, ended up getting one match, but looks good. Kind of what we thought, right? Like we think she's got a chance to be the person for us at 68 and maybe the best in the world. There's literally, besides the fact that 8.8 pounds is a lot, there's really nothing else to indicate that she's going to have anything but success. Truly an amazing young lady. Anything you guys want to add before we move on from there? Mark?
No, I mean, Wrestle-offs were what we thought they'd be, except for, a couple of them, one didn't make weight and one got hurt. I mean, that kind of takes away from the excitement of what could have happened. So, but there's plenty going on everywhere else, too, that we got plenty to talk about, obviously.
Yeah, Forrest didn't show up either. So, GT, anything? I mean, you're obviously the most dialed in of the three of us on this. It didn't seem like there were any major surprises. I mean, the Yanni Lee series really didn't get a chance to develop.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a little bit more fireworks when we get to, State College here in April. Hopefully Yanni's, healthy and nothing too serious about the injury. I'm not mad about having our former world team member going to try to qualify the Olympic weight class in Acapulco. So that is great. The meet looked really great at that weight class. Once again, first time down to 68 in probably a while. Dom, former world champion, Jakara, former world champion, either one of those people trying to qualify that weight class for Pan Ams, I think is a great idea. Really happy to see Macy Kilty back out there, making that a tough match. Also, she wrestled extremely well against Jen Page in the opening round. So I'm really happy with the team that we're sending there to try to qualify those weight classes and have a really good showing in Paris.
It's amazing the level. It feels like no matter what would happen, there are really no bad answers, right? Like if somebody upsets somebody, well, then they're on a roll and we trust them to keep it going. And, like I mentioned, Lee Pritz, and I think most people know he and I are actually really good friends, but I respect his hustle so much. He's up there in Denver and then, has to get right back to Arizona State for the college season. And these coaches have very, very little free time. And this, when they're double dipping and doing double duty, and it's all, it's all help these athletes and eventually help USA Wrestling. And we all know this, Mark and you and I have been talking about wrestling off the air for a long time. An Olympic year just feels different. The amount of national pride, the amount of just people thinking USA, like I watch swimming and gymnastics and track and field sort of every 4 years. So I think a lot of people watch wrestling that way. And so this is an awesome opportunity for our sport to grow. I must have said something really right, GT, because Mark didn't even respond. So I'll take it.
You're right. When you're right, you're right. So
mark it down, GT. 10-16-2-7. I got the silent standing applause. Okay. We were talking about a couple of things. Before we get into results and rankings and predictions, let's talk about reaction time, because this is affecting, I think, of the things that we thought would affect matches the most. Certainly 3-point takedowns have affected the sport. I think the main takeaway for me there is you can win a takedown now with one takedown with one takedown, and you don't have to pick down. And you can win 3-2 versus 2-2 the old way. Near fall, I don't think it's as, I think it was very easy to predict, right? Like guys that are good at these roll through tilts and cradles, you get an extra point. That's probably as it, should be. The reaction time thing is so crazy. It is, because there's no consistency. I got a chance to visit with the referees on Sunday before the Oklahoma State-Missouri duel. They came over and talked to me. Thank you, Mizzou, for the media pass. They said, what do you think about what happened at Penn State, Iowa State 125? Okay, for people that didn't see this is McCrone and Braden Davis. And full disclosure, Braden Davis almost wrestled in Michigan Border Brawl, so I have a relationship with him. But from the clip I saw, it looked like there should have been a takedown, which would have made Braden Davis lose the match and no longer be undefeated. Okay, just my opinion. I told somebody that the one referee thought it should have not only been a takedown, but near fall. And the third official, or the second official, the third person in the conversation, said they had the right call. Now, at least two of these guys get paid to make these calls, and I would like to consider myself in at least the top half of people that talk about wrestling in this world. So I don't know, I don't think anybody wants to make the referees have a harder job. So I'll start with you, Mark. You coached longer than us. What do you think? Does it need to be fixed? How do they fix it?
Well, I think it needs to be fixed. How you fix it, I'm not sure, because you are leaving it in the hands of the official, and they can review their own calls now, which is kind of new. And they're, for some reason or another, they're not willing to change what they saw, even though they can slow it down and see it. You're talking about 125 Penn State, Ohio State. He's in on a double leg. He's got both legs. Comes around to the side. The kid releases and starts grabbing at legs. He puts the guy on his back for minimum of 2.5 seconds, David. And then he rolls all the way through the other way. So I'm not even counting that as part of the 2.5 seconds. So there's another second right there. So probably 3.5 seconds. And then somehow gets out of bounds, and they call nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And it's basically everybody's confused. The coaches are throwing bricks out there like, a demolition derby, wanting to figure out what the heck's going on. I don't want to cuss on here, but it's absolutely nuts what's going on right now. And that's not the only match of the weekend that somebody got.
There's been a bunch all year. I just brought it up because I don't know how often any of us get to talk to referees like that candidly, and there was that much difference in opinion. So, GT, you were making some points off the air, and I literally interrupted you because I thought what you're saying was so on point. I want the audience to hear it. So go ahead.
Well, I think from a year ago where there was like no reaction time, we ended up having, and I think this is what happens with like the rules committees and the referees, is that we swing so heavy one way or another based off of something that maybe would have changed the course of a young man's career or like the season for somebody. So we talked about, the kid from Ryder and Max Dean, Ethan Laird.
Max Dean. Yeah.
So basically we're talking about kind of almost like a rear standing position where they're putting him down, and basically the reaction time was gone. Maybe there isn't any control, but reaction time is gone. So any supporting point goes down, shoulder, head, hand, whatever it is. If he's going into a Grammy, doesn't matter. It ends up being, at the time, 2, now 3. So I think now we're back to reaction time where like basically you have to have control or an established control as you're going down to the mat or whatever it may be. There's also a lot of different positional awareness things where like if your head's trapped on a low double, if they're on their butt, on their hip, or if you have both legs, you're looking for a bottom leg Turk or something like that. Not to nerd out on specific wrestling positions, but there's a lot of different ways you can get takedowns, right? So I think you guys are absolutely correct when we talk about we do not want to make the officials' job harder. And once again, this is not just like a homer statement, but like it's really, really hard to talk to somebody that's never seen wrestling and then try to walk them through what just happened. And I think even officials, they have a tough time articulating like wrestling to the general public, which that is then their job to try to say that out loud when they get to their review and be like, hey, based off the action, no call or 3. And then we're still sitting there looking at each other, extremely smart wrestling people up in the stands, like, hey, what just happened? So I think lending itself to, and we talked about this in the car on the way home because we're watching it on our phones or whatever it is, from coming home from a dual meet. And there was a couple of suggestions that were outlandish and there was a couple of suggestions that were fine. But I think Tom Ryan tweeted out something about like, we need to invest more into officiating and the review process as like the NCAA needs to be able to do that. And we had made a joke that we just need to have Mike Haggerty sitting in his basement with like 13 different screens and he's Gene Sarator, where it's like, hey, live from New York or from Mike's basement, what is the call? And then like basically they go to him as a individual third party review system where they have like a live feed that just goes to somebody that's watching wrestling on Friday and Saturday nights in order to be that next guy to review all of those things, rather than having, hey, Dave, you made the call. It was 3. Then you go over and review your own work. And you're like, yep, that's what I saw.
And that's a great point, Grant, because, we all watch Monday Night Football. We all watch professional football or something like that. And they always have a guest, and they can always call one of the officials up and say, hey, what do you think they're going to do here? Because obviously they called it this way. They're reviewing it. What did you see? And, 50% of the time, the person that's, evaluating it saying, yeah, I think that was a catch. The ball, didn't seem to move, or yeah, his foot seemed to be in. They're going to overrule that. And then they keep it the same. And they say, well, why is that? And the guy goes, I have no idea. From everything I saw and the advantages that I saw, it should have been overruled. And I think we're seeing that, but we're the fans. We're the ones seeing it with knowledge, saying that's not going to hold up. They're going to review that, and they're going to, get the right call. and they're not doing it. And I don't know if it's they don't want to look bad in front of everybody else. They set their mind at it. I call it this way. This is how I see it. And even though I've got evidence that I was wrong, I think that's the way I saw it. I'm going to just leave it the same because it's not enough evidence in front of me to change my call. And it's hurting wrestling, David, Grant. I really think it is. And there's a few other things that are hurting wrestling, in my opinion, but that may be for another day. But this is really affecting the fans, the people that actually understand the sport. Or at least we think we do until now. We're watching matches and they're not going the way you anticipate them going because of calls, because you're leaving it in their hands with, well, I don't think that was enough reaction time. The guy went to his back for a second and a half. I'm still going to see what happens, how they roll through, and then I'll make a decision. And by that time, they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what they're going to do, and it just doesn't work.
Well, I mean, you're definitely right on that part, Mark, where like it's frustrating for the fans to like go through a duel and like you feel like you're seeing it a certain way and like the whole crowd seems to be thinking it as a certain way and the officials are seeing it another way. But I think the largest part about officials and even high-level coaches is like the education of what they're going to call or what they're seeing to like how I need to coach my athletes to like either get the points, stay out of trouble, or whatever it may be. But I think that education piece between the officials, and that's why I think like, and once again, I was bringing up the Haggerty thing, but it's like, you probably need to have some sort of person educating people on the Big Ten Network, because that's probably one of the or Flow or whatever platform that you're watching wrestling on. Educate like, hey, this is how, like, if you just walk through it a little bit more, maybe that would change a little bit. And once again, I know that the officials go through a weekly process to review certain things. So I know that it was on the call for them to like, hey, what happened here? Get all 30 referees watching that film, and then they all get better because of it. So maybe this is just an outlier situation that costs on a bigger stage, but they review that stuff. They try to get better at it. But how many officials, I mean, realistically, how many top level officials do we have in the United States? 60?
Maybe. And top level is always subjective. I've been taking notes listening to you guys, and this might be the best segment we've ever done because I didn't speak for 10 minutes. So that's awesome. First of all, let's say this. There's some coaches that are throwing some really bad bricks. Okay. Like, I understand they're upset about the referees, but like, I was at the Mizzou-Oklahoma State duel, and both the bricks they threw were just ridiculous. Like, I was sitting next to a buddy of mine. I'm like, well, they're going to lose, and here's why, and they're going to lose, and here's why. Second thing is this. I think if you're a coach tied to that, you need to have somebody in your staff, on your corner, somebody who is not looking at the meat through the colored glasses of your team. Because, like, if I was sitting in either corner, I'd be like, don't waste your brick here. Having said that, GT, the point you mentioned about, like, the Gene Steratore, Mike Haggerty thing, that's not as expensive as people think. Okay, like, I did Virginia Tech from Missouri. Okay, like, and I was streaming and I was on the air and my name was on the screen. Like, you're able to see different angles, and you literally, the truck will give you the replay. Okay, so that is, and this isn't anything I'm doing. They just patch me in and I do what I do for 2 hours. But that's not as expensive as people think. Okay, so the technology itself, and it's actually cheaper if you have the referee who's sitting at home, because I have to make sure my audio works. There's a talk back button, so you talk to the truck, so you're off I mean, there's some things, like, frankly, that I have to write down so I don't screw up. These guys could just, whenever they say, hey, Mike, hey, Grant, what do you think about this? Then they push the button and speak. The third thing is this. There are announcers that don't know what's going on, like in the Braden Thompson MJ Gaitan match, where Gaitan's standing out of bounds, bear hugs him, gets the takedown, Oklahoma State challenges. If you watch the match, you're like, Braden Thompson put his feet behind him so that he wouldn't get just power bombed. Well, his feet were in the cylinder. And one of the announcers, not Hardell Moore, the other guy goes, well, everything's out. I don't see how they lose this challenge. So I think there's a bunch of people that don't actually know the rules that are in positions of semi-authority or commentating status. And it's like, you should know what you're talking about. If you're being paid to talk about things on the air, you should know the rules. It's better to know the rules than to know everybody's names, because you can read their names. You can go Google the bios. You can't Google knowledge. So people need to actually know what they're talking about. They need to do their homework. They need to be ready for the assignment because it's an important assignment. And one of the reasons why the NFL is the most popular sport is because of stuff like Gene Steratore, is because like Jim Nantz and Tony Romo can go, Gene, what do you see here? Well, and we all know this. Did he catch the ball? Did he secure the ball? Did he make a football move? Right? Like, and then was his knee down? You know, like, an elbow counts as a knee, like all these different things. Like it's, you know, we know these rules because we see them over and over. And Grant, to your point, if we're trying to grow the sport, you have to have rules that are fairly understandable for somebody that doesn't understand wrestling. Like, you know, why is it when we're neutral that I have to, if I get behind you and you're standing, it's not a takedown. But if I started on bottom and I reverse you and I get behind you standing, it's a reversal, because reversal is control. Takedown's control, but the identical position is not the same. It's not called the same way. How do you explain that to a person? Because I actually don't understand that. I think like a reversal should have to bring him to the mat then. If a takedown is you have to put him on the mat, then a reversal should have to put him on the mat. Because let's put it this way. There's at least one way where it's illogical. So the other thing is this, and I think coaches and fans and referees need to be looking out for this. I saw this 3 times in the duel on Sunday and 1 time on the duel on Friday night. I called. Somebody's riding somebody and they get in that north-south position and they're in the leg pass position, and the guy on top is leg passing or hanging on to a leg, and they just call a stalemate. That's stalling on top. They're supposed to count to 5 and that's stalling on top, and they forget. And what's crazy to me is the coach of the guy on bottom forgot too. They should have thrown a brick because they were there for 5 seconds. So maybe it's just because I'm hyper aware of this, because like I was on the air and I'm talking to referees and everything else, but there's a lot of goofy things going on right now. So
David, here's one other thing. And you guys, I'm sure you watched it or you saw what was going on. Oklahoma State, Missouri, 125. Noah Certain's on top. Pulls him back into his lap. Looks like there's definite back points. One shoulder's actually completely on the mat. The other one's kind of laying on part of his chest. And he holds him there for like 3 or 4 seconds. The guy doesn't move from that position, and he doesn't count back points because maybe part of the shoulder wasn't on the mat. It was on his, it's never been like that before. What are you seeing as a difference compared in 5 years ago? There's no doubt in my mind that would have been a three count, and they're giving nothing. And that has nothing to do with reaction time. That's just pure positioning of the official seeing what's going on. And they challenged that.
That's the one but I thought they would lose that challenge because it happened right in front of me. So it's interesting because I think people know how much I respect you as a person and your opinion on wrestling. To me, it never looked like he got to 45 degrees. Okay, like his shoulder was on the mat, but it looked like his back was in freestyle criteria, but not folk style criteria. But here's the other thing that the referees, and it's wonky. What they're doing is this. They're saying it's when they count. So, for example, if Grant lateral drops me and throws me to my back and I'm like almost pinned, okay, but the referee's on the other side of it, he doesn't have to spin around and start counting. He can start yelling 1, 2, or he can just say, I was counting in my head while I was getting there.
Yep.
And there's common sense to that. And I feel like they've almost legislated common sense out of this. Like the leg pass thing drove me crazy. Like, you guys know this. I don't root for anybody and I don't help anybody. But I was like, afterwards, I told both coaches, I'm like, you guys both had a chance to get stalling calls against the other team. And they were both like, oh my God, you're right. Like people, here's the other thing. And I'm just going to say this and go off on a rant. We need to get these college coaches under control in the corner. Like the first time they leave and start touching referees, it should be a warning. The second time it should be a team point. And the third time the guy should just be like DQ'd because it's not good professional look. Like this is crazy. These people are just being like accosted. And these referees, and you're not being paid enough money for that, to literally for your human dignity to be violated. Like that's a podcast for another day. That's just my opinion. It's not the opinion of USA Wrestling or Grant Turner or Mark Ostrander. But now that I don't have a horse in these races, it's when you watch it, you're like, oh my God. Like if this happened in public, there'd be charges. You can't do that. You can't just get in somebody's face and grab their arm and scream at them like that. Like it's not good. So the other crazy thing was I saw a high school meet refereed this weekend by the father of a kid that used to wrestle for one of the teams. That was crazy too. So not awesome. So anyway, anything else before we get into the rankings?
No. I wish I understood it more after we had this nice conversation. I don't think I'm any smarter now than I was before we all started saying what we thought. And I still don't see the solution of what's going on out there. So,
well, I think that there's powers that be that we just continue to like advise the people that are making the decisions to help them understand like what is happening. Because if you do spend some time, and Mark, I think, let's say, for instance, like if you were to come to the NAI national tournament with me or something like that, and you were to watch the national tournament, I think there'd be a lot of like understanding and then also frustration that would all happen in the same day. But I think over the course of that whole tournament, you would get a vibe for what the officials were calling and how they were calling it when you're seeing 500 matches in 3 days. So like you get a way better a view of what is actually transpiring than in a duel, which is just straight 10 matches. So
the law of large numbers there, GT, what you're saying is a really good point. And it's another good point that if somebody who's people of influence hear what we're saying and they play it and they go, hey, these guys are pretty smart dudes and maybe we should listen. Go ahead, Mark.
Another thing is that I saw a couple bricks this last weekend in certain matches, and the officials would talk for a second after the brick was thrown. They pick the brick up. They go to the coach. Coach would tell them what they wanted to review. Then they'd look at each other and talk to each other. And then at one occasion, they handed the brick back to the coach saying, we'll review it on ourselves. I'd never seen that happen before, where they gave a brick back before they even reviewed it, which they wouldn't have viewed by themselves until the coach gave them the brick. And then they decided to review it on their own, where you don't lose the brick if you lose the,
That's a good thing though, right? That's a good thing. Like if they think we might have missed the call and they're not making you take the risk because they literally think they might have made the wrong call, we can't punish them for that too. That's
I agree, but they didn't make that decision until the brick was thrown.
Maybe.
Then they had a conversation.
Maybe they threw the brick, but listen, Mark, you and I did rankings and we had to put a number next to names, right? Yep. And the minute we did it, we might go, listen, I could totally see Grant being 3 spots higher. Okay? Only we just had a week to fix it, not 5 seconds later. Sure. I have no problem with that. And I saw that last year, and I think that's a good thing. I think like if somebody, it doesn't matter how you get there. If you're getting to what's fair and right, I think that's good. Okay, so before we get into rankings, some crazy results this weekend. Michigan beat Iowa 24-11. They won 7 out of 10 matches. The highlight upset results: the Augustino beats Ayala in overtime. Sergio Lemley beats Real Woods 14-2 and may have had him pinned, which was maybe the most bonkers outside of 125, where everything is no longer shocking. Everything is just expected chaos. That might have been the biggest upset of the year. Will Lewan beats Franek in tiebreakers. Franek gets out in 3 seconds or 4 seconds, depending on who you talk to. Then Will Lewan gets out in 2 to win. And then I mean, those are kind of the three major matches. Austin Gomez looks like he could be a national champion. Then Mizzou, Oklahoma State, which I was at on Sunday. I had it 5-3 Missouri with 2 toss-ups going in. Cade Moore woke up sick as a dog, so they didn't have a 33-pounder. Nobody else could make weight. Sam Smith, John's son, had weighed in at 25, so he takes the forfeit at 33. Dayton moves up and beats Josh Edmond. As we talked about, Spratley beat Certain in overtime. Again, you can't call anything an upset anymore at 25. Teague Travis beats Brock Muller at 57. They were on the same team in high school. Brock was the big brother. That's a big upset. Braden Thompson beats Mako at 174, another huge upset. And it was senior night. And listen, we didn't do this at junior college. I don't know if you did, Mark, if you had sophomore night. I would not schedule senior night against top 5 schools. I feel like the emotions of senior night, like I'm not going to name a school because I don't want to denigrate anybody, but pick the number 35 team or something. So you're going to see a lot. Oklahoma State has moved up to 2 in the National Wrestling Coaches Association dual meet poll, and they really have to be there. They're the only other undefeated team besides Penn State. Okay. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to go to the team rankings. We are on fantasygrade.com, best site to check all this stuff out. Here's my question to you guys. Penn State's composite average from these sources is 144.6. Oklahoma State, 66.5. The 2 through 10 race is amazing. Michigan, 62 and change. NC State, 60. Iowa, 58. Iowa State, 57. Cornell, 55. Virginia Tech, 54. Mizzou, 51. Nebraska, 50. Okay, Mark, let's say we were to bet a plate of wings. Do you get you want Penn State or you want the next 2 best teams, and you don't have to pick them. Just whoever takes second and third in nationals, their points combined.
I'll take Penn State.
GT.
I'll take the points combined.
Okay, there's a bet. I just made a bet. I get 3 free wings from whoever wins.
Now,
that's the juice.
Wow.
What do you mean, wow, Mark? That's fair.
We don't, yeah, David, I would buy you a plate of wings, whether we bet or not.
Always. That's why we make these bets. I'm just joking, man.
We've talked off air about this many, many times. And we were at a point during the year, and maybe not right now, but maybe even it's more right now, is that if you took Penn State and you put all the other teams up against them, they're still going to have a tough time beating Penn State because they have 4 number 1s.
Okay, now let me make sure we explain the context. We're not talking about a tournament. What we're saying is if you take Penn State in a duel, and let's just say you take the number 2 through 10 teams and put together an all-star meet, it would still be difficult for them to win that all-star team to beat them in a duel.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gotten a lot easier with Van Ness out in Kasich. Okay. Yes. And then it's also gotten a little easier with Nagao having taken a couple losses, Truex taking a couple losses. And at 25, anybody can beat anybody. So, who knows there. Okay. GT, another bet. You can take Penn State's 4 best guys, and you don't have to pick them. You just, we just go through and figure out who scored the most versus the second place team.
For points?
Yeah. Who wins?
Well, that's a problem because it's so heavy based off of those 4 guys. And to be completely honest, I think that the 4 guys that I would pick, they're all national champs. So you're looking at what? 21 to 28 points per athlete.
80 plus bonus.
Yeah.
So you're taking the top 4.
Yeah, I truly believe that the 4 guys that from Penn State that I would pick are pretty much like a top 3 candidate at all those weight classes. I don't think that unless injuries happen, I think I would take 4 of the Penn State athletes to score 80 some odd points.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this for sure. 3 of my guys are 74, 97 heavy. Okay. Like, and then you get to pick, whoever scores the most between Truax, Messenbrink, Levi Haynes on, Kasich, Bo Bartlett, Braden Davis, Aaron Nagao. Okay. I'm just telling you this. I don't know if there's ever been a time in history where 4 guys could have beat the other teams.
Well,
we can ask Kyle Klingman. He would probably know.
I got a couple of teams that pop up in my head immediately.
The Oklahoma State 5 immediately come to mind.
Oklahoma State 5. I think also back in the day when they had David Taylor, Ed Ruth, Quentin Wright.
Yeah,
I'm lacking on a couple of guys that were on that team that were super talented.
No, listen, hey, David Taylor and Ed Ruth scored like 55 points, and Q scored at least 22. So now you're at 77. You get a guy that took 5th with a couple pins, you're at 90. The question is, in that year, did the second place team, not score 90? It's totally possible. Okay, totally possible. I'm not sure this year that the three best guys might not beat these teams. That's what's nuts. And these numbers are misleading because, like, if Oklahoma State scores 66.5 placing points, that doesn't count a single bonus point. And Penn State, if you take their 3 best guys, the most they can score placing points wise are 60. So I think if you gave me 3.5, I would almost take the Penn State 3.5. That's what's nuts.
Well, they can score more than 60, David. They can average 24, 25.
No, I get it. I get it. They could score 90 if they pin their way through. But I'm just saying the 60 versus 66.5, they're behind. And then they only have 3 guys to score bonus versus 10.
Yep.
So, I think 4 is crazy, but I would probably take Penn State.
I will be shocked if 75 and above happens with anybody besides Penn State. It's just that I just don't think it will this year. I don't know why. I have a funny feeling that it's going to be one team and then everybody else is going to be in this group around 60 to 65 to 70 points probably, which we haven't seen before. At least I haven't seen it in Division I wrestling. But if it's going to happen, it seems like this is the year it could happen.
All right, we got to fly through the ranking results and get to our picks for Iowa Penn State. All right, 25, shockingly, there were upsets. Braden Davis has moved up from 6 to 3. Cooper Flynn 7 to 4. Ayala drops from 2 to 6 because of his loss to DiAgostino, and moves from 13 to 8. Certain drops from 4 to 9. Spratley moves from 17 to 10. Tanner Jordan moves from 20 to 11. Noto drops from 8 to 16. He was number 2 in the preseason. Richie Figgs lost again. He goes from 11 to 19. Dean Peterson, who was number 1 a few weeks ago, 16 down to 20. So nothing surprises us at 125 anymore. 133, Shawver moves up. Sam Latona lost. I was on the mic for that match. He lost to Melvin Yarborough in a match that was weirdly uncompetitive. He got majored. Really no other changes. Braxton Brown's moving up, but inside the top 16, that's really it. 141, Sergio Lemley deservedly moves up 8 spots. Mitch Moore moves up 4 spots. That's really it. Cal Miller took a loss, and Wyatt Henson has like 30 matches this year, so he's wrestling triple Penn State schedule. 149, Dylan D'Amelio lost. He lost to Kasich, so Kasich bumps up above him. Alec Martin moves up. Jordan Williams moves in. It certainly feels like Jordan Williams has taken that spot from Sammy Alvarez. Okay, 157. This is, again, just my opinion. I believe that Teague Travis might be the most improved wrestler in college this year. I would argue in November, he was 4th string at 149. He was behind Jordan Williams, Sammy Alvarez, and Carter Young. He was behind at least 2 of those guys. I don't know if Carter Young was going to redshirt or not, but he lost to them both at the Lindenwood Open. He is now 10th at 157. And we've all had some dudes that have come from out of nowhere to do things on our teams, but super impressive, okay? Jared Franek has lost at least twice now this year, right? He lost to Blockus, and then he lost to Will Lewan, so he dropped from 2nd to 6th. Vinny Zerban is undefeated, and if he can win out, he's going to be the 2 or the 1 seed at worst. Okay. Bryce Andonian moves up. Teague Travis, as I mentioned, is moved up from 15 to 10. Will Lewan, 14 to 11. Mahler is now the 12 seed, and that is not a guy that you would want to draw. Although right now, if the seeds held, if these were the seeds, he'd have to wrestle Meyer Shapiro, who absolutely boat raced him in the duel. Ed Scott lost. Ryder Downey lost. So some significant movement at 57. 65, no change. The good matches are coming up here. O'Toole's going to wrestle Carr. I'm just going to point this out. Mitchell Messenbrink, if he can win out, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how high he moves up, because he would be undefeated. He would have beat Caliendo. He would have beat Hamidi. He would certainly be above those guys. And then now it's O'Toole, Carr, Olynyk, Ramirez. Carr beat Olynyk beat Ramirez beat Carr, Olynyk beat Hamidi in the All-Star meet. If Carr were to beat O'Toole in either of the Big 12s or the duel, there's literally a path for Mitchell Messenbrink to end up as the number 1 seed. So certainly a lot of chaos to look out for there, but really no changes. 74, Canigliaro moves up. Peyton Mako moves down after loss. Patrick Kennedy has slowly worked his way up from looking totally exhausted at the beginning of the year, but he was coming off injury against MJ Gaitan, to all the way up to 6th in the country. 84, no significant changes. 97.
Hey, can we go back to 84?
Absolutely.
Truax got pinned. Am I not wrong?
No,
Yeah.
you're right. You're not wrong.
So
I don't know. I don't know why they didn't move him. Maybe they just
I'm just saying the man got pinned. And I think that, once again, that Ohio State kid, I was yelling at the television. I'm like, why is he doing this? Why is he reaching back so much? Oh yeah, so now he's ranked.
yeah, there he is. Ryder Rogatsky. Go ahead.
But I'm like, what is he doing? I was so appalled. I was like, dude, quit reaching back, you junior high wrestler. And then all of a sudden he gets it. And I'm like, oh no.
That kid has a lot of pins. So
no, I wanted to make sure that I truly believe that Bernie is as good as advertised. And I think that, that was a fluke of a situation, but man got pinned by a freshman.
Yeah,
we got to give kudos to the kid that pinned a multiple time All-American in a humongous duel on national television, for his team, got the whole place rocking. Just wanted to make sure that gave that boy a little bit of flowers.
No, for sure. And there's another.
But hang on, dude. But then on Sunday he went and turned around and got pinned by Soldati from Rutgers. So
Soldano.
Yeah, from Rutgers. I mean, he got pinned.
I was just gonna breeze by that. I didn't really want to.
You don't want to say anything about that? Okay, just so did the 133-pounder beat Nagao, and then he turned around and lost.
Grant's in full college coach seating meeting mode.
Yeah, my kids would be ranked 3rd in the nation.
That's so funny. Let's
You
just
know what,
mention
David? Is this another time you're glad we're not doing rankings? Because it was for me this
honestly. The only weight that I probably text Mark this every 10 days. I'm so glad I'm not ranking 125 this year. I can tell you this, when we were doing rankings, there's a lot of times other people did them and I'm like, they're just wrong. They missed this. 125 is such a Rubik's Cube. It's so goofy. And one of my friends, shout out Scott Cutbirth, we were talking on the way home from Missouri, and we were talking about how the Big 12s and Big 10s could end up seated. And there's all these duels still to go. But at 125, everyone's beating everybody. And so, I told him, I think they'll just do it by who's got the least amount of losses. And then if let's say Mark has the least amount of losses and he's the 1 seed, then now anybody that lost to Mark, that doesn't count. And the way we used to always just if you lost to Nolf or if you lost to Bo Nickel, that just doesn't affect where you're ranked, because we're just assuming everybody would have lost to those guys because they're undefeated. And Ryder Rogotsky, another guy, wasn't even starting at the beginning of the year. They had another guy there, and Gavin Hoffman was supposed to come down. So, and they got Rocco Welsh starting for him at 74. So Ohio State's young. By the way, Arizona State has had a disappointing year, but I talked to Pritz. They don't graduate anybody. I didn't even realize that. They're all back. Parko's back. Teamer's back. Schultz is back. Vasquez is back. Figs is back. That's going to be a way better team next year. Okay, 97. This is the land of the Big 12. No changes really in the top 15. 285. Nick Feldman moves up. Really, other than that, nothing. Okay, so we're going to go to duel. There's a couple duels this weekend. Just to go through this. Friday, Michigan, Nebraska. I don't know if we can put that in and just point that out to people. Friday night, we're going to pick Penn State, Iowa, South Dakota State, Oklahoma State, 3 or 4 sneaky good matchups on Saturday, Northern Iowa, Iowa State on Sunday. So let's talk about Michigan, Nebraska first, very quickly. Another complete toss-up match at 25. Michigan's favorite at 33. Nebraska's favorite at 41. 49 could be fireworks. Mark, who do you got? Your adopted son or Ridge Levitt?
Oh, boy. That's tough. I think first time out, Rich Levitt beats him. But I do think Michigan wins in the Big Tens. Gomez.
GT, Willowan, Peyton Robb, GT.
I think Peyton Robb gets back to his winning ways a little bit. I think it's going to be a close match because Will is very good grinder, but I think Peyton will get him.
Okay, so if we say that, we'll leave out 25. Michigan gets 33. Nebraska gets 41. Nebraska gets 49. Nebraska gets 57. Michigan gets 65, assuming Cam Mean wrestles. Griffith gets 74. Pinto gets 84. Allred gets 97. Lucas Davison gets heavyweight. It's 5-4 with a toss-up. Definitely worth watching. 6 o'clock Central Time on Friday night. We now go to Iowa, Penn State. What I'm about to say, I have no knowledge of, but I did tell this young man's father this. I'm going to be shocked if Gabe Arnold does not wrestle 184. Having said that, the only reason I think he would not wrestle is if they start the duel at 125 and Penn State boat races him, where it wouldn't matter. Here is, to me, I do not think this will happen because we're going to make picks. But here's Iowa's path to victory. Ayala beats Braden Davis. Real Woods beats Bo Bartlett. Caleb Ratchie beats Tyler Kasich. Jared Franek beats Levi Haynes. Caliendo beats Messenbrink. And Gabe beats Bernie Truax. That's 6 wins. That's 18 points. Penn State would have to get to 19 points with 4 guys. So even if they would need 3 techs and a major. Obviously, they could get pins, but if it's 18-18, Iowa would win on matches, 6 matches to 4. Okay, so here's what I got this written down. I have written down in order: Mark, Grant, David. So Mark, you will pick matches first. 1, 4, 7, and 10 first. GT 2, 5, 8. I'll go 3, 6, 9. Mark, Ayala, Davis.
David, I'm still trying to get this bad taste out of my mouth from last weekend.
That bad taste in your mouth was the wings you owe me, so don't even worry about it.
I'm going to go Drake Ayala over Davis.
Okay. GT?
I'll take Davis over Ayala.
I'm going to take Ayala just because I think it feeds into the chaos and it makes the duel more interesting. GT, Nagao, Shri, and unless you tell me, I'm putting you down as a decision. Just for
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know where I'm going to make my big splashes.
Woo.
Splash on, Big Daddy. Splash on. Okay.
Go ahead, Grant.
GT.
I'm going to take Nagao by a major.
Okay. I'll take Nagao decision.
I'm taking Nagao decision.
Okay. 41. I'm taking Real Woods to bounce back. Mark. Yeah, Mark.
Wow. There goes that bad taste again. I'm going to take Real Woods by decision. I have no idea why right now.
GT.
I'll take Bo Bartlett in overtime.
The specificity I can appreciate. Mark, Ratchy Kasich.
Yep.
I'm going to take Ratchy by decision.
GT.
I'll take Ratchy by a decision.
I will take Kasich. 57. GT.
I'll take Levi Haynes by a decision.
I concur. Mark.
I'm going to take Levi Haynes, overtime, second overtime, gets out in 2 seconds, and Franek had gotten out in 3. How's that?
Perfect.
I'm still shaking my head.
That's ideal.
There's so many things I want to say, and I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to shake my head as a coach.
First time ever. 65. I am friends with John Messenbrink. I'm going to take Mitchell by decision. Mark.
Caliendo by decision.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, okay. GT.
I'll take Caliendo by decision.
74. Mark.
I'm going to go Patrick Kennedy losing by only a decision.
So that's Starachi.
Yes. I had you going for a minute, though, didn't I, Dave?
No. Because I haven't, no one, your wife didn't call me and said you hit your head on anything. GT.
I'll take Starachi by decision.
I'll take Starachi by major. Okay, 84. So at this point, by the way, Mark has it 4-3 Iowa. GT has it 5-2 Penn State. I have it 5-2 Penn State. So in Mark's scenario, I think maybe Gabe Arnold wrestles. So this is GT, your pick first.
I'll take Gabe Arnold by decision.
I'm going to do the same.
I am going to take Truex by a decision.
Wow. Just hopped
And
off.
that's just because we haven't seen Gabe Arnold in a while. And going out against Penn State is a big thing. And I don't know.
No, he didn't beat anybody good this year. It's fine. He didn't beat Whitlake. He didn't beat Feldkamp. It's fine. Didn't beat Feldkamp an important duel with pressure. No problem. On the road. No big deal. Okay. I got Aaron Brooks by Tech Fall. Mark.
Aaron Brooks by a major.
GT.
I'm going to take Aaron Brooks by Tech Fall. Now, I think also this is going to be a really cool match for Glazier because Glazier hasn't really wrestled a whole bunch of like hugely successful talent yet. I really want to see this match. I just want to see where Glazier's at.
Glazier's undefeated, right? So it's kind of weird.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think he's 18-0 right now.
And he's average rank of 11th, which is weird, right? Like normally an Iowa guy that was undefeated in February would not be ranked 11th in the country.
Or we wouldn't be saying that he's going to get Tech Fault either.
That's why I said major. See, you guys aren't giving him enough credit. I'm all in on Glazer.
And I, as anybody else in the country would say, the entire country is in on Aaron Brooks.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was in on Aaron Brooks to beat David Taylor, and I may double down. So
he may be the best kid in college wrestling, bar none.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he is because I'm not sure who wins 25, and that person could be the best kid in college wrestling by the end of the year. We don't know. Obviously, that weight is confused.
We do know. No, we do know that whoever wins 125 will not be better than Carter Sirachi, Greg Kurtfleet, Aaron Brooks, the winner at 165. We know this. We do know this.
All right.
Okay. Let's go to
heavyweight.
Yeah, Mark, you're first.
Do they put Ben Keeter out against this kid with 2 matches in for the year?
Mark.
I don't think they do. I think Bradley Hill's going to be wrestling, so I'm going to go Kirkfleet by fall.
I mean, are you saying if Ben Keeter wrestles, it changes your pick?
It'd still be Kirkfleet, but it wouldn't be by a fall.
Okay. GT.
I think Greg Kirkfleet by major.
Okay. I got Kirkfleet by Tech. So Mark's got Iowa 3, 6, 9, 12. He's got Penn State with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins plus 4 bonus. So that's 22-12. GT's got Iowa winning 1, 2, 3 matches. Penn State winning 7 plus 1 bonus, 2 bonus, 4 bonus. So 25-9. I've got Iowa winning 1, 2, 3 matches. Penn State getting bonus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7 times 3 is 21 plus 5, 26. Okay, so I got 26-9. GT's got 25-9. Mark's got 22-12. So that's differences of 10, 16, and 17. So what if somebody set the line at Penn State at -14?
I'm pretty sure Missouri or Michigan covered that, so I'll go Penn State.
They did not. They won by 13.
Oh, well. I'll go Penn State.
GT?
No. This is in Carver. There's a lot of things that can happen. I mean, also I also bet against Ayala. I think Ayala and Davis is a great match. I think I bet against Real Woods in overtime, but Real Woods could definitely beat Bo Bartlett. I think that anytime that you get 2 extremely high level teams, especially in either at Bryce Jordan, Rec Hall, Carver, Gallagher, Iba, Hilton, at Lehigh, all of the different places that are amazing atmospheres. And once again, I'm not singling out those. It's just I rattled off a few.
Yeah.
Wild stuff happens, man. This is college wrestling. Even though these teams are extremely talented dudes, with the way that the rules are set up right now, big moves are 7 points. Lots of crazy stuff can happen. Pins can happen. I just think this is too volatile of a environment between Iowa, Penn State in Carver that the crowd's going to be a factor in some of those matches. Maybe a couple extra stall calls, whatever it is. I just don't know if I could go that high of a point differential when it's a rivalry match and it's, these guys are talented top 5 teams.
I wonder where the right line. I feel like the right line's -11.5, somewhere in there. It feels like that's the line where you get the money on both sides of it. So
it depends if the sports book's in, Pennsylvania or Iowa.
Yes. So yes, you go bet on Penn State and Iowa and Penn State. So for sure.
If you break some of these matches down compared to what they've done this year, obviously you're going to say Penn State's a stronger team, obviously. But there are some individual matches that, and I keep going back to Franek and Levi Haynes. Levi Haynes has won a lot of matches this year by the skin of his teeth. So has Franek, but it wouldn't shock me if Franek upset him at home
Listen, I laid out the path for Iowa to win 6 matches, and none of those are super crazy upsets. The problem is hardly anybody on any side wins all the toss-ups, right? I mean, that's just in nature, right? That's what happened. Just to close or conclude, that's what happened at Oklahoma State, Mizzou. Oklahoma State won all the close matches. That's what happened at Iowa, Michigan. Michigan won all the close matches. When one side wins all of them, the score is obviously more lopsided than if they hadn't. But in either one of those, the duels were 7-3. They could have went 5-5 really easily. So, I mean, this duel could get totally out of hand, right? If you said Braden Davis wins, Nagao wins, Bartlett wins, Kasich wins, Haynes wins, Messenbrink wins, I mean, they could shut them out. I mean, literally, nothing there. Those individual 1-by-1s, they're not surprising. They're ranked higher than them at, I think, every weight class.
Yep.
But no one's picking that. I shouldn't say no one.
Yeah, there are people that are picking that, I'm sure.
So we'll get on Fantasy Grade and make your picks on Friday night. I'm going to enter my team. Mark will enter his team, and then he can look up at me in the standings later and send me some wing money again. The wing daddy is back, Mark. I'm here to stay.
All right.
All right. For Mark and GT, I'm David. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you all next week.